Something is above my house, y'all.
Yes, dude. How's this possible? I'm holding it still.
Jesus loves me. Oh, you know Jesus.
Bizarre, dude.
How they had like the small lights on it?
Yeah, like what is happening?
Drone.
Look in the sky.
It's one of those.
What would happen if what we're seeing in the sky isn't random anymore, but the final countdown bell? In just a short time, strange lights exploded over Oklahoma. The moon shot across the sky in an unusual way. Glowing orbs shook when the holy name was proclaimed. Fire fell on Kansas. A huge ring of light spun over Vancouver. A glowing cross appeared in Kazakhstan. 10 signs, 10 direct hits on humanity's already fragile sense of what's real. Do you dare believe this is just coincidence? Or is this only the beginning of something much bigger? Before we dive into the answer for each sign, please leave a prayer in the comments as a way to show your faith. Amen. Now, so you don't have to wait long, let's get right to it. 1. Mysterious glowing orb over the Oklahoma sky. A burst of light ripped across the calm Oklahoma night sky, hanging there like a fiery eye opening right in the middle of the darkness. For that second, we weren't looking up at the sky anymore. We felt like the sky was looking down at us. No sound whatsoever, total quiet, just one strange glowing ball that made the whole highway come to a sudden stop in pure shock. In the South Plains of Oklahoma, where people around Yukon and Lawton are used to mile after mile of straight roads in the wind, a local guy driving home spotted a small but super bright orb just hanging in the sky. It didn't drop, didn't shoot off. It simply hovered at some hard-to-guess height and started pulsing, lighting up strong every few seconds, like a huge heart thumping in the air. The light wasn't random like airplane lights, and it wasn't bumpy like a drone. It throbbed, shot out beams, calmed down, then exploded again, the same exact rhythm over and over. Almost creepy how perfect it was. While it slowly crossed about a mile of sky, its shape stayed sharp and never faded. Like something with a mind was moving carefully and watching everyone looking up. Luke 21:25 warned, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." When that light started beating in the Oklahoma sky, the worry wasn't just some far-off thought anymore. It turned into a racing heartbeat inside the people who saw it. Some said it was only a drone, maybe headlights bouncing off something, but what drone hovers dead quiet? No engine roar, no regular aircraft blinking. In Lawton, lots of different witnesses saw the exact same pulsing, the same path across the sky, and nobody had any record of factory work or tests going on nearby. Revelation 6:13 says, "The stars in the sky fell to earth, like figs dropped from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind," even though the orb didn't fall. Seeing a bright thing hanging there, flaring up in the dark night, made those old Bible words echo like something ancient waking up in our time. Psalm 148:3 calls, "Praise him, sun and moon. Praise him, all you shining stars." But what if one of those shining stars doesn't just glow? What if it beats like a warning bell? What if the light doesn't just brighten the night, but makes your heart shake? This wasn't some trick of the eyes or everybody imagining things. A steady, repeating pulse of light in the dark sky, moving slow like it was counting down. If it's a sign, it didn't appear to entertain. It came to remind us time isn't endless like we usually think. And if that orb keeps pulsing quietly in the still sky, will the next big flare just be a quick flash? Or will it be the moment the sky opens up in a way we're not ready to meet? 2. The moon moves fast and strange, like it has a mind of its own. In the middle of a clear daytime sky, the moon suddenly shot across like something fired from a gun, disappearing from the frame in just a few seconds. Jorge had to grab his camera quick as if he was capturing something that shouldn't be there. No explosion, no ground shaking, just a silvery path cutting across the blue sky, leaving behind an empty feeling that's hard to name. What makes this so hard to understand isn't the moon showing up in daytime, but how fast it went. Normally, the moon moves in its orbit at about 2,288 miles per hour, slow enough that you can hardly see it moving with the naked eye. But in that video, it crossed the sky in just a few seconds, staying perfectly round, no blur, no distortion, like the sky itself was sliding under it. Jorge was standing in a quiet, rural area near some mountains where there's only wind and open space, and his camera was completely steady. No panicked panning, no shaky illusion. The moon really ran through the lens. If we've always thought heavenly bodies are the picture of stability, that moment makes you wonder if something deeper is going on behind the familiar sky. Joel 2:31 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and dreadful day of the Lord comes." The verse isn't just about color. It's about a disturbance way outside normal orbit, a change that makes people look up in shock and fear. The setting makes this even more chilling. No crowded city, no city lights messing with things, just clear blue sky stretching over quiet mountain slopes. In that peaceful silence, the moon's sudden movement felt like a crack opening in the order of the universe, turning an ordinary day into something that can't be explained. Matthew 24-29 records the words, "Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken." When something that's supposed to be unchanging suddenly moves wrong, the idea of the powers of the heavens will be shaken stops being just a far-off picture and becomes something real to think about. Some folks say it could be an optical illusion or a satellite passing by, but the video shows the moon's path and size didn't change. No shrinking like something close to the lens, no fiery trail like re-entry junk. Similar reports from other places make the camera glitch idea hard to buy. Revelation 8:12 says, "The fourth angel sounded his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them turned dark." If heavenly bodies can be struck and affected, then them showing strange movements isn't outside the picture of prophecy. This isn't just a controversial video. It's a fact that forces us to rethink our belief that the sky always runs the same way. When the moon seems to race against its own orbit, our sense of steady time starts to shake too. And if today the moon can shoot by so fast our eyes can't keep up, next time, will it just streak across the sky again? Or will it stop dead in the middle, like a quiet sign before darkness covers the whole horizon? 3. Mysterious glowing orb in the night sky. The name of Jesus praised in the hearts of believers. A glowing orb floating in the dark night suddenly shook hard the moment the name Jesus was spoken, leaving the woman holding the camera speechless in shock. What would you think if you heard it with your own ears and saw it with your own eyes? It wasn't the wind, it wasn't fireworks, but a clear, instant reaction, like something invisible was listening to the visible world. In the quiet darkness of a neighborhood in North Carolina, the sky was black as velvet. No stage lights, no big crowd, just the steady chirping of insects and deep, empty space. The orb hung there about 10 feet off the ground, giving off a soft, steady light that didn't flicker or change color, like a lamp hanging in mid-air with no wires. At first, the woman talked to it in a half-joking, half-curious voice, and the orb just stayed silent, drifting slowly like it was watching. But the second she said, "Jesus," the light started shaking hard, not moving from its spot, not getting brighter or dimmer, just trembling over and over like it had been touched emotionally. She said more words of praise, and it shook again, stronger and clearer this time, making it feel like this wasn't random movement at all. Acts 4:12 says, "Salvation is found in no one else, For there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. When a being of light reacts right at the moment that name is spoken, the verse isn't just words on a page anymore. It becomes the key that explains the shaking in the night sky. What's strange is the orb didn't react to other words. It didn't shake when she laughed or talked casually, didn't move at normal questions. Only when the holy name was mentioned did the air seem to thicken and the light tremble like the atmosphere itself was vibrating around it. The perfect timing made a lot of people who watched the video get chills. Psalm 99:1 declares, "The Lord reigns, let the nations tremble. He sits enthroned between the cherubim, let the earth shake." End quote. If the earth can shake at his presence, is it really so impossible for a glowing orb to tremble in the dark? Could that shaking be a reflex to an unseen power? Opinions split fast. Many people were stunned, worried, even scared, feeling like they'd stepped into a supernatural story. Some said it was just a drone or an optical illusion, but the exact match between the sound of the holy name and the shaking made those technical explanations hard to buy, especially since similar orb sightings have been recorded in New Jersey too. John 1:5 says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." While plenty of folks felt confused by that light, believers stayed calm and moved, seeing it as a sign that the Lord's name still carries power to shake things even normal eyes can't explain. If a mindless orb can tremble at the sound of his name, what is this universe really hearing every time we pray? And if it happens again next time, will that light reveal something even bigger, or just vanish suddenly, leaving us with unanswered questions in the middle of the night? 4. Mysterious phenomenon: fire in the ice. A bright burst of light suddenly flared up from under thousands of feet of thick ice. It was so dazzling, the explorer instinctively stepped back, feeling like he'd just touched the heart of a secret buried since the beginning of time. It happened in Antarctica, near the Larsen ice shelf, where an explorer was scanning the terrain with survey equipment. When he accidentally brushed and wiped away the hazy ice on the surface, a soft glow that had been sitting deep, about 1,640 feet down, suddenly became clearer, almost like it was waiting to be set free from its frozen shell. At first, the light was just a faint blue patch, flickering like a breath. But just a few seconds after the surface was cleaned, it exploded with real power, spreading out and lighting up a huge area of ice with shimmering bands of color that looked almost alive. Experts briefly mentioned the possibility of bioluminescence from strange creatures in a subglacial lake, but the pulsing rhythm of the light felt more like something waking up than just a quiet biological thing. If you were standing there in all that white emptiness and saw the light rising from deep below, would you really believe it was just random? Genesis 1-3 records, "And God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light." In that moment, the verse rings like a reminder that light isn't just a physical thing, it's the starting point of life and order out of chaos. Online, people quickly split into different opinions. Some said it's probably a rare geological reaction or reflected light from minerals compressed under huge pressure. Others compared it to discoveries of subglacial lakes in the Maud subglacial basin, where isolated ecosystems have been found under ice for millions of years. Still, the sudden burst and the way the intensity jumped right when the surface was touched made many watchers feel this goes way beyond ordinary scientific explanations. Psalm 104:2 says, "Who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretchest out the heavens like a curtain." That picture suggests light wraps the universe like a sign of power and creation. And seeing it come up from deep ice could feel like a nudge about the original source of everything. Even with all the analyzing and doubting going on, nobody can deny the scene felt almost unreal, like touching an ancient layer of Earth's memory. In the middle of ice that seems lifeless, that light pulsed strongly, like a heartbeat finally waking up after a very long sleep. Revelation 21:23 says, "And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it. And the Lamb is the light thereof." When light appears without the usual sources, that verse becomes a way to think deeper about what light really is. Whether you explain this through science or faith, it still raises a big question about what else might be hidden under the world's surface. And if that light under the ice has truly woken up after millions of years, what happens when all that ice melts and reveals whatever other secrets are waiting to be seen? 5. Shimmering balls of light danced across the sky, then vanished all of a sudden. 3 or 4 glowing orbs suddenly started dancing in a perfect circle up in the night sky before disappearing without a trace. If you were standing right under that glow, would you still think this was just some normal thing? It all happened in a flash, mysterious and completely silent, like the sky had opened a supernatural stage and closed it right away. This took place in a quiet rural area near Rochester, where folks were out stargazing in peaceful calm. No thunder, no airplanes, no engine sounds, just the deep sky and the usual stars. Then, all at once, these light orbs appeared, hovering like they had a mind of their own. Each one was about 30 feet across, giving off white light with a silvery shine, edges sparkling like moonlight on water. They began circling each other in perfect paths, so in sync it was hard to believe, repeating the exact same circle like something programmed. No bumping, no drifting, no change in brightness, just a mechanical dance that somehow felt alive and gave you chills. Revelation 16:13 says, "I saw 3 unclean spirits, like frogs, come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet." The picture of 3 beings showing up together, moving with purpose, made a lot of people think of invisible forces at work in the air. After a few minutes of circling, the orbs suddenly picked up speed just a bit, pulled closer together, then vanished like the darkness swallowed them whole. No smoke, no streaks, no trace left in the sky. Witnesses barely got out the word bizarre before everything went quiet again, like nothing ever happened. Scientists quickly said maybe drones flying in formation or light bouncing through unusual layers in the atmosphere. Some weather folks mentioned natural plasma or mirages from temperature shifts. But the perfect timing, exact loops, and instant disappearance made those everyday explanations hard to buy, especially since similar sightings had been reported near Pocatello before. Ezekiel 1:14 describes, "The living creatures darted to and fro like flashes of lightning." That Bible verse usually gets read as a vision, but the quick, precise, bright movement of these orbs in the night sky made plenty of people pause and think about the odd similarity. The Bible also speaks of shaking in the heavenly powers as a warning sign. Mark 13:25 says, "The stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken." When the sky stops moving the way it always has, those words hit like a serious alert about something way beyond normal. Those looping lights, whether a rare natural thing or something beyond regular physics, are still a reminder that we don't control everything moving overhead. And if one night those orbs come back in bigger numbers, spinning faster, closer to the ground, is that dance just for us to watch, or to pull all of humanity into one final swirl? 6. Mysterious fireball drops straight down over Kansas skies. A huge fireball suddenly ripped across the sky and plunged right toward the city, turning the dark night into a blazing sea of light in just a few quick seconds. Nobody had time to get ready, no warning at all. Just this giant streak of fire falling like a spear from way up high, jolting hundreds of people awake in confusion and fear. It happened right in the heart of Kansas City, where the busy streets of the day were now dead quiet. Near the 71 highway area, folks all reported the same thing: a blinding bright light dropping straight down from about 10 miles up, leaving behind a long fiery trail hanging in the air like molten lava. The strange part? The thing made no big booming explosion like you'd expect from a large meteor. Its light wasn't just white. It glowed bright orange and red, like melted metal, and you could feel the heat, even without any real shake or shock. A lot of people grabbed their phones fast and filmed it. They all caught the same almost perfect straight-down path. No curve, no scatter. Then it just vanished suddenly right before hitting the ground, like it got swallowed into some invisible gap. If you saw a firefall like that right over your own city, would you think it was just a natural thing? Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." The picture of fire falling from the sky isn't just some old symbol anymore. It feels real and alive when a burning streak cuts across a modern city sky. Some astronomers quickly said it was probably a meteor or space junk burning up as it hit the atmosphere. But the almost perfectly straight drop, the lack of any supersonic boom, and the way it disappeared just before the ground made a lot of people wonder. Normally, a big meteor makes noise or leaves pieces behind, but this time, there were no reports of any damage or metal fragments found anywhere. Revelation 8:5 says, "The angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. Then there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake." Even without the earthquake, that image of fire being thrown down to the earth makes many think of something done on purpose, not just random space stuff. Psalm 18:8 describes it too. "Smoke rose from his nostrils, devouring fire came from his mouth, burning coals blazed forth from him." In that light, a fireball dropping into a city feels like a powerful sign of strength and judgment, reminding us the sky isn't always silent. The Bible has warned for a long time about fire from heaven as a sign of special moments in human history. When blazing light falls right into the middle of a modern city, the question isn't only what was it, but also what does it mean? If this firefall was just a rare event, we might forget it soon. But if it's a hot warning about something much bigger coming closer, next time, will that streak of fire show up far on the horizon or drop much nearer to you, close enough that you can't just look away? 7. Mysterious circle floating in the sky over Argentina. A perfect circle suddenly hung in the air above the Andes, moving slowly like something alive. It left local people stunned and quiet. If you looked up and saw a huge round shape drifting across the sky like that, would you think it was a cloud, an illusion, or something beyond what we can understand? The sight wasn't loud or flashing, but it was enough to make everyone stop in their tracks. The event happened near the Paraná Delta area in Buenos Aires province, where rivers weave together with mountain ranges stretching from the Andes Mountains. People were walking in the familiar landscape when they spotted an almost perfectly round shape appear above the horizon. It stood apart from the surrounding clouds, like an object with clear edges. The circle was estimated to be about 387 feet across. It floated gently like a bubble, yet it held its shape firmly. It rotated slowly around its center. No propellers, no engine, no rushing wind, just smooth, steady motion. Its surface caught the soft light, giving the feeling of a floating island, but too perfect to be random. Isaiah 40:22 says, "He sits above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a curtain." When a circle hangs in the sky, that Bible image of a circle brings to mind order and structure set from the beginning, as if the geometry of creation was being drawn right in front of our eyes. After a few minutes of slow turning, the circle began sliding toward the thick clouds to the west. It moved smoothly, like guided by an invisible force. It didn't break apart or warp. It gradually slipped behind the clouds and disappeared completely, leaving the sky looking normal again, as if nothing had happened. That appearance and vanishing made many people wonder if it was just a rare atmospheric event. Some folks thought it might be a natural formation similar to El Ojo, which is famous for its unique round shape. But El Ojo sits on the water and doesn't float high in the sky. It also doesn't spin in the air and then slide behind clouds. Satellite images shared later added to the debate, showing a round structure that appeared briefly in the area around the same time. Psalm 104:5 says, "He set the earth on its foundations, so that it should never be moved." Creation's order is described as a solid base, but seeing a moving circle in the sky made people feel how fragile even the things we think are fixed can seem. Revelation 21:1 also records, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more." The picture of the whole sky and earth changing echoes when people witness strange signs in familiar nature. Whether viewed through science or faith, that floating circle still raises questions about the order and balance of our world. And if a circle can appear, spin, and vanish amid the mighty Andes, next time it comes back and keeps turning, what else might disappear along with it? 8. A glowing ring hidden in the Vancouver sky. A bright ring of blue and red light suddenly hung in the sky, making the whole city look up in surprise. If you were standing on the street and saw a glowing ring open up right above you, would you think it was something natural? Or maybe an invisible doorway? No sirens, no loud boom, just the sky lighting up all at once, like someone painted it with light. It happened in Vancouver, near False Creek, where the dark water usually mirrors the city lights quietly. But that night, the light didn't come from the tall buildings. It came from the sky itself. A huge ring, about a mile across, just appeared and floated there like it was meant to be. The ring didn't flash wildly. It smoothly changed colors, from blue to green to red, like the universe taking a slow breath. No sound, no quick moves. It just hung there quietly, making the whole city feel small under that big glow. People pulled out their phones to record it. Some got excited, some felt nervous, but everyone sensed something strange, like the sky had just opened a window to another reality. Ezekiel 1:16 says, "The appearance of the wheels was like the gleaming of beryl, and the four had the same likeness," their appearance being something like a wheel within a wheel. That picture of a wheel within a wheel, with a beryl shine, brings to mind this glowing circle hanging in the air, like a sign of heavenly machinery beyond what we can understand. For just a few short minutes, the ring stayed perfect, then slowly faded away, like a door gently closing. It didn't break up into clouds or shatter. It simply vanished, leaving the sky dark and deep again, as if nothing had ever been there. The quiet afterward felt even heavier than the bright moment itself. Revelation 4:3 says, "And he who sat there had the appearance of jasper and carnelian, and around the throne was a rainbow that had the appearance of an emerald." When a ring of changing colors surrounds the sky, it brings up that image of the throne and the glorious rainbow, like an explanation for the amazing sight. Some folks said it might have been a drone show or man-made light effect, but a ring a full mile wide with smooth, steady color changes, that's way beyond normal tech. Similar sightings on the east coast of the US make people wonder, was this just a light test, or is something bigger being shown? Psalm 97:2 says, "Clouds and thick darkness are all around him. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. Bright light in the middle of night." Surrounded by clouds and shadows made many feel this wasn't just an optical trick. It was a reminder of glory and the heavenly throne. Whether you see it through faith or just plain thinking, that glowing ring made the whole city stop and wonder. And if one day that ring doesn't just hang there but opens wider, covering the whole horizon, will we see another light show or something much deeper waiting behind the glow? 9. The orange sky glowing strangely over Eugene, Oregon. The sky was pulsing in the middle of the night. A bright orange ring suddenly spread across and flashed like a giant heartbeat right above the drivers, making a lot of folks pull over to the side of the road, feeling uneasy. If you're driving and see the sky ahead breathing in steady beats, do you keep going or stop to get a better look? No sirens, no weather alerts, just the light changing color and pulsing behind a thick layer of clouds. The strange sight was spotted near Eugene, where the sky is usually gray and damp, typical for the Pacific Northwest. One driver out at night noticed a deep orange color spreading unusually wide. It wasn't city lights bouncing back. It was light coming from behind clouds about 1,000 feet up. When he pulled over to watch, that orange glow started flashing in a regular rhythm, brightening, then fading, like it had a purpose. The odd part was that not everyone saw the pulsing clearly. Some witnesses said they just noticed the sky changing color, while others swore the light expanded and contracted every few seconds like clockwork. This personalized effect made the whole thing feel even more mysterious, almost like the sky was choosing who to talk to. The reddish-orange shade brought to mind fire hidden behind the clouds, and it got people thinking about extreme climate change or something beyond regular weather science. Jeremiah 10:2 says, "This is what the Lord says. Do not learn the ways of the nations, or be terrified by signs in the heavens." That warning doesn't deny the signs exist, but it tells people not to panic over them, as if those changes up above were already known in a bigger plan. Weather experts think the light might have come from distant wildfires reflecting off the clouds or city lights scattering through low cloud layers. Some environmental scientists mention fine dust and pollution creating that orange effect. Still, the steady, regular flashing, confirmed by many separate reports around Eugene, makes the just weather explanation feel a bit thin to those who saw it up close. Revelation 16:8 says, "The fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and the sun was allowed to scorch people with fire." When the sky takes on a fiery color and glows like hot coals through the clouds, that Bible verse sounds like a warning of judgment coming through nature itself, where light becomes a reminder. Psalm 50:1 declares, "The Mighty One, God the Lord, speaks and summons the earth from the rising of the sun to where it sets." If the Creator calls the earth from east to west, then a sudden sky change over a wide area could feel like a call for people to pay attention. Whether you see it through science or faith, this Oregon pulse made plenty of folks stop in the middle of their everyday drive and look up. And if that pulsing gets stronger, brighter, and spreads to more cities, will we call it a rare atmospheric event, or the final signal before the sky truly changes in a way no one can turn back? 10. The mysterious cross in the night sky. A glowing cross hanging in the sky. A quiet, shining cross floats high above, and suddenly the whole city falls into a holy stillness. If one day you look up and see that symbol drawn in light across the sky, would your heart feel afraid or comforted? An ordinary moment turns into something sacred that no one was ready for. It happened in Almaty, a city surrounded by grand mountains under the wide open sky of Kazakhstan. People were going to work, chatting, shopping like any normal day when they suddenly stopped. A streak of light cut across the sky, then another crossed it, forming a perfect cross. There was no sound at all, just silence spreading through the crowd, looking up. That cross was about 500 feet long, glowing softly instead of blinding bright, floating calmly above the tall buildings like it was hung in midair. The white light, with a touch of pale blue, made the shape clear but still gentle. It didn't scare people, it stirred deep thoughts. Some experts say it might be an optical effect from ice crystals reflecting city lights, but the perfect symmetry and the shared feeling from everyone who saw it make that explanation feel like it doesn't quite reach the deeper meaning many people sensed. Galatians 6:14 says, "But as for me, may I never boast except in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ." When the cross isn't just on a church wall anymore, but appears high in the sky, that verse rings out like a reminder. The symbol of salvation doesn't belong to a stone building. It belongs to the story of God's redemption for all people. Some call it just a light illusion. Others say it's a rare atmospheric effect. But from Almaty and nearby areas, hundreds of eyes saw the same clear shape, and it lasted long enough for people to take pictures and videos. The peace that spread in that moment was the complete opposite of the warnings and strange signs that came before, as if the sky had stopped shouting and started whispering. Mark 15:39 records, "When the centurion, who stood there in front of Jesus, saw how he died, he said, 'Surely this man was the Son of God.'" When a Roman soldier recognized the truth at the foot of the cross, it was the moment judgment on sin was declared. But at the same time, the way to salvation opened up. That bright cross in the sky brings back that event like a final judgment, not just to condemn, but to rescue. Psalm 22:16 says, "They pierced my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. People stare and gloat over me." That ancient prophecy reflects the pain and sacrifice. So the light of the cross becomes the mark of victory over darkness. Whether you look at it through science or through faith, that glowing cross turned an ordinary afternoon into a time of deep reflection. No flames, no drama, just quietly hanging in the sky like a final sign of hope in unsettled times. And if that cross doesn't just appear once and fade away, but keeps shining through the long nights ahead, will it become the sign that guides us through the darkness coming close? Or a reminder that judgment has been spoken but the door of salvation is still open? Here are 10 signs that have passed right before our eyes, like 10 quick drumbeats in the dark night, from bright streaks tearing across the sky, glowing red halos, floating rings of light, orange pulses behind the clouds, all the way to a gentle cross hanging in the air. Each one, by itself, could probably be explained by science, weather, or some kind of technology. But when you put them side by side, they form a bigger picture that really makes you stop and think. This isn't just about lights in the sky. It's about where we stand under that sky. The Bible has talked for a long time about strange signs in the heavens as part of God's big plan. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." When we see things that break out of our normal routine, maybe the important thing isn't to panic. Maybe it's to ask ourselves, are we ready for what the Bible has warned about and promised? Those 10 signs, however you understand them, still turn our eyes upward. And when people look up, that's when they're reminded of the one who created it all. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, "If my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land." That promise isn't tied to one country or one time period. It echoes for anyone willing to humble themselves and pray. So instead of just analyzing or arguing, maybe this is the moment for each of us to quiet down, look at our own life, and put our trust in the Lord. If these signs are like a wake-up bell, the answer isn't to ignore them, it's to wake up spiritually. Take just a moment right now to pray, even if it's only a short, honest sentence from your heart. If you'd like, leave a prayer in the comments for your family, for our country, or for your own faith. Or just share what you're thinking about, what we've been reflecting on together. Who knows, your prayer might be the comfort someone else reading this really needs. If this has helped you think a little deeper about faith and the times we're living in, please give it a like, share it with family and friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future messages. This journey doesn't stop at these 10 signs. It keeps going every day we live and wait. Thank you for staying with me to the very end. May God give you His peace, protection, and care for you and your family in every situation. Amen. What would happen if the sky above us stopped being quiet and started sending out urgent signals? If those familiar clouds suddenly twisted, tore open, burst into flames, and split wide like an invisible door, is that just a coincidence or a warning? Is time moving faster than we think? All over the world, white streaks are ripping through the sky, giant faces forming in the clouds, green-white spirals exploding across the night sky, double circular rainbows closing like fateful seals. Perfect holes punched deep into cloud layers, glowing green orbs floating in the dark, gates of light hanging silently over the desert, swirling beams of light curling up, rays opening paths across the ocean, and a transparent shape drifting by like a figure from another world. All of it showing up, one after another, without warning. What are we actually seeing? Is this just random weather or signs that a certain time is coming to an end? Pay attention to each event, each detail. There might be an urgent message in them, just for us. And if you still believe, leave a prayer in the comments below as a way to say your faith is still alive through all these changes. Amen. Now, so you don't have to wait long, let's get started right away with 1. Perfect lines across the sky, like drawn by the hand of God. The blue sky suddenly gets sliced right across by sharp white lines, straight as an invisible knife cutting through the air. Not some thin cloud that fades away quick, but long streaks stretching miles and miles from one horizon to the other, just hanging there in a strange way. In that moment, we can only stand still and look up, feeling clear as day that something doesn't feel familiar anymore. At first, they're just thin white threads, way up around 30,000 feet. But in a few minutes, they spread out, branch off, cross each other, and slowly weave into a huge checkerboard pattern covering hundreds of square miles. High-altitude winds blowing up to 90 miles an hour bend the lines into waves and spirals, making a moving picture full of mystery. Some streaks fade when the air warms up, but plenty of others stick around for hours, like a steady hand is holding them in place up there. This happens a lot over big cities in America and Europe, where commercial jets fly back and forth from early morning till late afternoon. Lots of folks call them contrails, condensed water vapor from jet engines, and science says high humidity lets them last longer. But when those white lines cross into almost perfect grids, the random feeling gives way to some kind of order that's hard to explain, like the sky is being marked on purpose. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven." Those words ring out quietly, planting in our minds the idea that signs up high aren't strange at all in the history of faith. As the white bands get thicker, blocking the sunlight and turning the air cold and hazy, the memory of those signs from heaven doesn't feel like it's just stuck in the pages of a book anymore. Matthew 24-29 warns further, "The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken." Those crisscrossing lines aren't the shaking of the whole universe yet, but they bring to mind a sky being touched and stirred in a way that makes people's hearts uneasy. When light filters through that hazy grid, everything below looks gloomier than usual, as if nature itself is breathing differently. Still, some people believe it's all just a normal atmospheric thing, the natural result of modern aviation. That argument makes sense, but it doesn't wipe away the feeling that these lines showing up more and more often are telling a different story. When those cold straight lines cover the whole sky on the same morning, The thought of a reminder from above suddenly gets hard to push away. If this is really just jet engines and water vapor, why do they shake us up so much inside? And if they are a sign, then these are only the first strokes on a much bigger picture. The sky has just been marked, and maybe those white lines aren't the end at all. Maybe they're the beginning of something that's slowly taking shape. 2. The mysterious giant face in the clouds. Against a silvery gray sky, a huge face suddenly formed in the clouds, so clear you could see the eyes, nose, and lips for just a few quick seconds. It wasn't a flash of light or a rainbow. It was a real-looking face hanging there in the sky, as if watching everything down below. This was spotted over the wide-open fields in the American Midwest, where thick cirrus clouds often build up when ocean winds blow deep inland. In the quiet countryside, the sky turned into one giant screen. Then, from those stacked clouds, a three-dimensional shape appeared, hundreds of feet long, making it feel like something was looking down on the endless plains. The cloudy eyes were deep and dark, with shadows in the sockets giving the gaze a serious look. A high nose came from a thick band of cloud, and the mouth seemed slightly open, like it was whispering something you couldn't quite hear. A gentle breeze slowly changed the face, from calm and quiet to sharp and cold, then soft again in just a few short minutes, leaving us with a feeling that's hard to name. Still, some people say it's just pareidolia, our brains seeing familiar shapes in random cloud patterns. Online, folks quickly split into two sides. One calls it a trick of the eyes and weather, while the other thinks the match is too perfect to be pure chance. Skeptics break down the light and angles, while believers quietly share the pictures with prayers. Each side holds their ground without backing down. Revelation 1-7 says, "Behold, he comes with the clouds, and every eye will see him." Those words don't describe some vague idea. They paint a clear picture of a presence in the clouds. When that giant face appeared and slowly faded, a lot of people couldn't help thinking of the old warning about the one watching over human history. Luke 21:25 also reminds us, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars." If signs up in the sky were talked about thousands of years ago, then a face forming in the clouds isn't just a light trick anymore. It becomes a reminder that the sky might hold deeper meaning than we usually think. Science will probably keep explaining it, and the photos will slide down the news feed. But that feeling of being watched by an unseen gaze doesn't go away easily. If it's only clouds, why does it stir up such a mix of awe and hope in so many hearts? Maybe what's important isn't proving right or wrong, but the quiet awakening inside each of us when we look up. And if one day that face stops being hazy and becomes clearer than ever, will we be ready for that gaze? 3. A strange blue-white spiral in the European sky. A huge blue-white spiral suddenly spun across the night sky over Europe, glowing bright like a gate opening in the air. It made thousands of people rush outside in a panic to take pictures. What would you do if you looked up and saw the whole sky moving in a perfect spiral like that? It started as a small, bright point, then grew into an almost perfect circle. People guessed it was miles across, with electric blue mixed with sparkling white, like it was lit from the inside. It turned slowly for a few minutes, pulling thin streaks of light like mist behind it. The glow reflected off low clouds and covered big cities from the UK to Poland, Sweden, and Germany in a dreamlike light. Seeing it wasn't just interesting, it gave a deep, uneasy feeling, like the normal order of the sky had been torn open. But what really gave people chills wasn't just the spiral shape. It showed up over crowded areas near country borders during a time when the world feels so unsettled, and then it vanished fast, like it was never there. No big boom, no pieces falling down, just shaky videos and tons of questions flooding social media. Scientists quickly explained it. It was probably frozen rocket fuel from a launch. Lots of folks pointed to SpaceX flights, where the upper stage dumps fuel and spins, creating these near-perfect spirals that catch sunlight. Physics says the light, pressure, and spinning can combine to make something this amazing. Still, not every detail lines up easily. Why did the spiral stay so perfectly shaped for so long, even with high winds always changing? Why was the electric blue so strong and unusual compared to other launches? And why did witnesses in different countries all describe the same feeling, like a gate opening, instead of just calling it a technical light streak? Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." A twisting column of smoke in the night sky, glowing like cold fire, makes many believers think of that old prophecy, now set against our age of tech and rockets reaching into space. Matthew 24:30 says, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven." If these signs up high aren't just physical events, but reminders of a covenant between heaven and earth, then that blue-white spiral might hint that history isn't wandering aimlessly. It's heading toward a set meeting point. Science will probably keep refining the explanation, and more launches will bring similar glowing rings. When the sky starts showing things that leave people stunned and wondering about their own future, it's not only a physics story, it's about getting ready. If that spiral was a wonder reminding us time is short, the real question isn't where it came from, but where we stand in our own covenant. And if one night that twist doesn't close up but opens wider, where do you think it would lead? To heaven or to hell? 4. Two perfect full circles of light, like God's halo over Oregon. Not just one, but two perfect full circle rainbows showed up at the same time, one on top of the other, right in the Oregon sky, like a doorway of light opening straight into heaven. That moment wasn't just pretty. It made people go quiet because the air felt so holy. Down in southern Oregon, near thick forests and the mist rising off the Columbia River, strong sunlight cut through thick layers of moisture and created something really rare. The first rainbow circle closed up into a complete round shape, about a mile across, with all 7 colors clear and bright like someone painted them. Right below it, a second circle showed up, like a mirror image, thicker, sharper, and it stayed there for hours without fading. The light danced and sparkled across every color band, making the sky look like the dome of a giant cathedral. Folks pulled their cars over, stepped out of their houses, and just stared up in wonder. Do you think it's only light bending through water drops? Or maybe a reminder coming down from somewhere higher than we usually think? Ezekiel 1:28 says, "Like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day, so was the appearance of the brightness all around." That picture isn't just about the colors. It's about God's glory being right there, covering everything. When those two bright circles wrapped around the Oregon sky, a lot of believers quietly got down on their knees to pray. To them, it wasn't just science. It was a sign of His glory showing up. People's reactions split fast into two clear sides. Folks without faith felt worried, even scared, saying it looked too perfect to be random. They talked about climate change, weird weather patterns, and things going wrong in nature. But believers stayed calm because to them, these kinds of signs have been foretold, and they show up not to scare us, but to wake us up. Revelation 4:3 says, "And there was a rainbow around the throne." If one rainbow was once the sign of God's promise after the flood, then two perfect circles could feel like an even stronger message. It's not just a single promise anymore. It might be a quiet warning that the sky could roll up like a scroll when the time comes. Science says this was probably a halo from ice crystals high up in the air, bending and reflecting light at just the right angle. That's true on the physics side, but the fact that two full clear circles lined up so perfectly and lasted so long still makes a lot of people wonder, why show something this powerful right when so many hearts feel shaken? If a rainbow used to mean mercy, then seeing two could be a call to wake up, not to spread fear, but to stir up faith that's fallen asleep. And as those two circles of light slowly faded against the Oregon sky, the real question isn't about the phenomenon, it's about how we respond. Were those two rainbows a reminder of the promise of salvation or a signal that a new chapter is starting? When the sky can turn into a living message, are we ready to read what it says to us? 5. Perfect round holes in the clouds, strange and almost perfect. Right in the middle of what looks like a calm sky, a huge round hole suddenly appears in the clouds. The edges are sharp and white, like someone punched right through the sky. No explosion, no lightning, just a darker, empty space showing through underneath. It makes you wonder, what's really going on up there above us? People have spotted this from California all the way to Florida. It usually happens near big airports, places where the sky already has lots of plane trails. These holes can be hundreds of feet across. The cloud edges look thick and bright, while thin streaks of cloud, kind of like virga, fall from the center and disappear before they hit the ground. It doesn't pop up and vanish in a second. Instead, it slowly grows, staying almost perfectly round, so round that it feels like the sky is being stretched open from the inside. Old video clips from different states show the same pattern happening again and again over the years. It doesn't feel like a one-time thing. Those high-up circles look like doors opening and then closing, revealing some vague emptiness behind the thick clouds. When you stare right into the center of one of those holes, have you ever felt like something was looking straight back at you? Scientists say this is called a fall streak hole. It happens when a plane flies through a very cold cloud layer and suddenly triggers ice crystals to form and drop, leaving a round gap behind. From a weather science view, changes in pressure and temperature can create those unusually sharp cloud edges. The explanation makes sense, especially since so many of these show up near airports. Still, a few things don't quite add up. Not every hole lines up with a known flight path, and some appear in places with no recorded planes right before. The almost perfect round shape and the even way they spread sometimes go beyond what normal weather models predict. How can the same basic process keep making structures this eerily flawless? Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars." When strange gaps like this open up in the sky, a lot of folks don't just think science. They think about those old prophecies of signs in the heavens. Not bright lights, but the sudden absence of clouds, like an empty space left on purpose. Revelation 6:14 reads, "The sky receded like a scroll being rolled up, the picture of the sky tearing open, then seeming to shrink back around a center point." Feels very close to that description. If the sky can roll up in a symbolic way, could these perfect round holes be a quiet warning that the familiar structure of our world isn't permanent? When the signs keep coming back, when the sky seems to be peeled open bit by bit, maybe what we need isn't just an explanation. Maybe what we need is to wake up. If one day that hole doesn't close, if it just keeps growing bigger and deeper and stops being only a gap in the clouds, are we ready to face whatever's waiting on the other side? Is that opening just a weather event? Or could it be a crack, letting a holy gaze see right through to our hearts? 6. Green orbs floating in Alaska. In the deep darkness of Alaska, 3 bright electric green orbs suddenly appeared, hanging in the air like wireless lights strung across the sky. No sound, no trail of smoke, just brilliant light drifting slowly in perfect silence, making anyone who saw them wonder, is this a natural event or some kind of sign being sent down? Out in the wild near Delta Junction, where the northern lights usually dance across the winter sky, this was different. Not the flowing bands of aurora we're used to, but 3 clear round spheres glowing electric green like neon, holding a steady formation thousands of feet up. They moved smoothly, no flashing, no color changes, almost like an invisible rhythm was guiding them. Each orb looked bigger than a small house from the ground, and their light didn't spread out. it stayed concentrated, feeling thick and deep. The usual cold, dark Alaskan night turned mysterious, peaceful, yet heart-pounding at the same time. Standing under that sky, who wouldn't wonder if what they were seeing belonged to the earth or to the heavens? Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." The idea of fire from heaven has long been seen as a symbol of power and warning. Those 3 green orbs floating against the black sky bring to mind flames that don't burn, but shine bright enough to wake up an entire region. Some people think they might have been test rockets, military drones, or maybe a rare plasma phenomenon tied to geomagnetic activity. Still, the way they moved so smoothly, kept perfect spacing, and stayed that pure electric green doesn't quite match the usual technical reports. No engine noise, no public radar hits, and no official explanation came right after. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven." Those great signs don't always come with thunder or destruction. Sometimes they arrive in a stillness that's almost frightening. When lights just hang overhead without leaving any clear physical trace, it makes people think deeper about the connection between heaven and earth. If the sky has always been seen as the divide between what's visible and invisible, those green orbs felt like a thin point of contact between 2 worlds. They didn't crash down or explode. They just showed up, then slowly faded away, as if delivering a wordless message. End quote. That silence can sometimes speak louder than any bang. Those 3 lights might just be a rare trick of nature, or they could be a reminder that humanity isn't alone under this vast sky. When light appears in the most remote place, it doesn't only brighten the heavens, it shines into our hearts too. Are those orbs guiding the way towards something coming, or simply reminding us there are layers of reality beyond what we understand right now? As the last green glow melted into the cold Alaskan night, the question still hangs in the air with the sky. Is this the start of a series of strange signs, or an invitation to look up higher than ever before? 7. Heaven's Gate hanging in the sky over Arizona. On a quiet evening in Arizona, a huge shape hung high up in the air, so silent it gave you chills. It wasn't a plane, and it sure wasn't any regular cloud. When you looked up and saw this hazy door right there in the desert sky, who wouldn't wonder what in the world they were looking at? Near the Arizona desert, where mountains help create those lens-shaped lenticular clouds, you often see disc-like clouds in the sky. But this time, the thing went way beyond anything normal. A giant oval shape, maybe miles across, just floated there without moving, with a soft, glowing edge that looked like faint light coming from inside. It didn't drift or fade away quickly. The shape stayed in the exact same spot long enough for dozens of people to grab their phones and record it. The outer edge was smoothly curved, the center darker, giving it real depth, like an open doorway leading to somewhere else. It wasn't just curiosity, it was this strong pull, wanting to stare closer while feeling uneasy about the unknown. Revelation 4:1 says, "After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven." That door, standing open, isn't just a symbol. It's a real description of a boundary being revealed. When a giant door-like structure appeared in the Arizona sky, that connection hit harder and more directly than ever. Meteorologists explain that lenticular clouds can form round or oval shapes when strong winds blow over mountain peaks, causing moisture to condense into a stable cloud layer. Still, the unusual size and the sharp glow around the edge made a lot of people question it. Not every lenticular cloud gives you that clear 3-dimensional feeling of an actual entrance opening up. Matthew 24:30 says, "Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven." If signs in the sky are seen as bridges between heaven and earth, then this floating heaven's gate looks like a straight-up message matching what's already written. Not a quick flash of light, but a steady, silent structure, like it's waiting Out in the wide open desert, where people already feel small next to nature, this door made our present moment feel even more fragile. It made no sound, destroyed nothing, but it reached deep into your thoughts. When the sky itself can open, the line between the everyday and the supernatural suddenly feels paper thin. If it was just a cloud, why did the image stick with people so strongly? If it was a sign, maybe it wasn't there to satisfy curiosity, but to remind us to get ready. A door in the sky isn't just something to look at. It could be an invitation to repent before the time comes. That heaven's gate hung there, then slowly faded into the desert darkness. But the question remains. If one day that door opens wider, clearer, will humanity be ready to step through, or will we just stand there doubting? Would you dare walk through if it really opened right in front of you? 8. Mysterious light swirl in Argentina. In the peaceful countryside of Argentina, a huge swirling light suddenly showed up. It spun around like a glowing pool of water floating high in the sky. For a moment, you could almost feel the air around you gently vibrating with each spin of the light. It wasn't lightning. It wasn't fireworks. It was an orderly, clear pattern of light that lasted long enough for lots of people in the community to see it. Near the province of Buenos Aires, where light pillars sometimes appear from ice crystals bouncing city lights, the usual night sky suddenly looked strange. A bright center point spread out into a giant swirling ring, probably miles wide. The colors changed from silvery white to soft blue, then a faint purple. It didn't just glow. It created the feeling of motion, like it was stirring the space overhead. That light swirl kept turning for a few minutes, long enough for many folks to grab their phones and record it. Some people who saw it talked about a light buzz in the air, like a mild electric feeling on their skin. It's tough to measure with everyday tools, but that sensation made the whole thing more than just something to look at. It became something you could almost feel. The combination of light, movement, and that vibration gave the scene a kind of mystical feeling, as if the sky was breathing. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below," when a swirling light appears up high and, at the same time, many people down on the ground feel a gentle shake. The link between above and below really stands out. It's not just a light hanging there. It's like an interaction between two different spaces, a reminder that these signs aren't only for our eyes, but for our whole being to sense. Some experts say this might be a rare type of light pillar mixed with unusual weather conditions, where ice crystals line up in a special way and create a swirling effect when strong light hits them. That makes sense from a science view, especially in cold, damp air. Still, the vibrating feeling that so many people described at the same time is harder to explain just as reflected light. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars." A sign doesn't have to be a shooting star or an eclipse. It can be an odd change in light, strong enough to make everyone stop and notice. When the sky shows a steady but unfamiliar movement, it's like a quiet message telling us there's more meaning here than just weather news. The light swirl in Argentina slowly faded, and the sky went back to normal. But the memory of that glowing ring and the gentle vibration stays in the stories of those who were there. It can go in the category of rare sky events, but it can also feel like a wake-up call for the spirit in a time when people easily tune out. If signs in the sky and on the ground are showing up more often, then each one is more than just a quick news story. That light swirl is worth remembering, and maybe it's a deeper warning too. Was it only an optical trick, or could it be the start of something much bigger coming our way? 9. Gate over the ocean near France. On a yacht off the southern coast of France, a bright beam of light suddenly shot straight up, then twisted into a glowing circle right above the water. It left everyone on board stunned as the ocean seemed to open up right in front of us. It wasn't a flare or a lighthouse. It was a clear, shimmering structure of light shining in the middle of the dark waves. This happened out on the Atlantic, close to the French coast, in an area people have talked about because of strange gravity and magnetic changes there. From the bright center, the light spread out into a perfect circle, probably a few hundred feet across, and reflected down onto the rippling sea. The water right under that ring seemed to move harder, almost like some kind of energy was rising up from deep below. The light didn't stay still. It slowly turned, with sparkling rays sweeping across the surface like the glow of a gate starting to take shape. The waves around it crashed harder, and a loud roaring sound filled the night, making the whole scene feel even more dramatic. Some of the passengers said it felt like they were standing at the edge between two worlds, where the sea wasn't just water anymore, but a curtain hiding something underneath. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, on the earth. Mothers, nations will be terrified by the roaring of the sea and the waves." When that twisting light opened over the water and the waves roared so unusually loud, it really brought those words about the sea in the last days straight to mind. It wasn't just something in the sky. It felt like the sky and the sea were answering each other. Some researchers think it could be plasma or reflected light from equipment on a ship, or maybe even connected to gravity anomalies on the ocean floor. Strange magnetic fields can sometimes create rare light effects under the right conditions. But the way everything came together, the perfect circle, the twisting motion, and the strong reaction from the waves all at once, makes a lot of people say it's hard to call it just a coincidence. Revelation 21:1 says, "I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no more sea." In the Bible, the sea often stands for chaos and deep unknowns. When a gate of light shows up right over the ocean, it feels like a sign that the old order could be replaced, and big changes are coming close. The glowing ring slowly shrank and faded into the darkness, but the memory of it still stays with everyone who saw it. The ocean looked calm again on the surface, but the image of that shining gate amid the roaring waves isn't easy to forget. That event wasn't just light on water. It was a warning about changes that might go beyond what we understand right now. If that gate really connects the sea and the sky, then it's not only opening a space, it's opening a time. When the waves roared under that twisting circle of light, was it just a rare natural thing, or a signal that the final shakeup is getting near? What secret under the ocean does that gate lead to, and what will come up when it opens again? 10. A transparent object floating in midair. A see-through, human-shaped figure floating slowly drifted across the treetops in an open area of California. Anyone who saw it would have to wonder just how solid their own reality really is. No engine noise, no propellers, no clear shadow, just a shape hanging there in the air, as if it didn't belong to the physical world at all. It happened near a national park in California, where heat mirages sometimes show up because of temperature differences near the ground. But this thing wasn't distorted like a regular mirage, and it didn't shimmer or wobble like a reflection. It kept a steady shape, about 6 feet tall, with balanced proportions like an adult human body. It moved slowly through the branches without stirring a single leaf. Matthew 24:30 says, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." A figure appearing in mid-air, not touching the ground, not held down by gravity. That image makes a lot of people think of the sign that was foretold, a warning you can't just brush off. The witness said it was transparent like glass. Light passed right through it, but the edges stayed sharp and clear, like a perfect three-dimensional hologram. It didn't glow brightly, but it had a soft shimmer, like thin mist catching sunlight. For just a few short minutes, the shape floated across the open space, covering maybe a few dozen feet before it slowly faded into the air. Revelation 1-7 reads, Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him. And all the peoples of the earth will mourn because of him. The idea that every eye will see hits hard when a floating form shows up in broad daylight, not hidden in the dark. This wasn't some group dream. It was a real,